Hiya, I'm a Zamen and I have seldom ever used social media. When it came to keeping up with my friends in high school some 5-ish years ago, I mainly did so through Discord or via phone numbers. So call me a fish out of water when today, I want to talk about Emily is Away, Less Than 3. A game that tries to capture the vibe of late 2000s high school internet social media culture. A time where I was just starting elementary school. But hey, I was a high schooler once, and I think the game has an interesting story about the nature of trust, which in my eyes is very fascinating. So with that in mind, let's dive into Emily is Away 3. Booting up the game, I have to first navigate installing an exe with its wizards, select an operating system, choose my browser, and then create an account, allowing me to see what a Face Nook account looks like, which is meant to be a parody of the old Book of Faces, of which I have never had an account. I was a Skype wielder and then a Discord sorcerer, and then I got Twitter to commission artists. That's about it. Anyway, I set up my account, Zamen of course, real name Edwin Zedwin, pick the picture that looks the closest to me, and then I'm in, where I'm greeted by my longtime friend Matt, who's a total bro, and while somewhat foul-mouthed, he is a real one. He's prone to anger, acts quickly, and is somewhat non-committal, but he's also the one who introduces the main gameplay of this game. Responding to messages, since Facebook is a social media about sending messages to pals, which is what you do throughout the game, always getting to choose from 1 to 3 responses. Sometimes they are 3 flavors of the same thing, other times they'll dictate the emotion the protag is responding with, like being angry, accepting, dismissive, and so on. The game is also rife with choices that will appear later. Matt continues being over the moon about me being on Facebook, and Matt has an important question for me. This song, trash or pass? Bringing in another recurring element, music from the 2000s. Lots of characters will send me playlists of music, which does inform their character, as the type of music they listen to does tell me a decent bit about them. Also, it's cool how the links they send you end up taking you to a separate webpage called YouTube. It really adds to the experience. I do also imagine the music sent is supposed to be nostalgic, but I've never heard of any of the music the characters listen to, as I am very cool and lame, claim as I call it, because I listen to English anime covers, Vocaloids, and game music. Meaning that my taste in music is of a very different palette. Hence why I told Matt that the song is trash. I really didn't like it. But in response to me, Matt mostly laughs it off. That's how you know we're good friends. Lesser ones would have been pissed off over something trivial like this, which I genuinely saw in the high school I worked at last week. Literally, last week. It was such a stupid fight, oh my god. The conversation continues, and a recurring trend you'll see with me is that I try so very, very hard to avoid swearing. It is very difficult because the protag has such a potty mouth, and sometimes he just throws in the word and the poo-poo word. It's miserable. Aside from that though, Matt then helps me finish up setting my account, writing a status, adding a few pictures, and friending all the IRL chums, such as Kelly, Matt's girlfriend, after which he introduces the main conflict of the game's first chapter. What party do I go to? You see, the cast just completed their junior year of high school, so they're celebrating by going to one of 2 big parties. Either go to one being hosted by a girl named Emily, or go to one being hosted by a girl named Evelyn. The tea is that these 2 used to be friends, besties even, but they had a pretty major falling out and now they don't talk, so they're having 2 different parties instead of one major party together. Matt then makes me decide which party we'll be going to. I should mention that we consider both of these girls our friends, and both of them will be expecting us to attend, but we can only go to one, and for that reason I then begin chatting up each girl individually to learn the deets of both parties. Naturally, in the gameplay I do go back and forth between them, but for the sake of the video, I'll go through each convo one at a time, starting with Evelyn, who's the cool one. She's rather crass, a bit of a rebel, watches horror movies. I'm even able to tell her of my fondness for Final Destination 3, which was one of 3 pretty valid choices. because I've seen The Strangers, and it's a type of horror movie that does genuinely scare me. The line, "because you were home," lives rent-free in my head. And The Blair Witch Project is a film that I really like, mainly because of its production history and the behind-the-scenes facts. Whereas Final Destination 3 is just a good time overall, with less of a realistic fear aspect. Because after all, you can grapple with the god of death and throw him into hell's fire. Like, everyone can do that. That then ties me into the next line of questioning, where I tell Evelyn that I'm into rap and hip-hop, which is correct, though not in the way that she's thinking. Now, let me talk about Emily. In a few words, Emily is a bit more polite, plays video games, reads book, and is a bit of a dork. I'm even able to tell her of my fondness for The Great Gatsby, which was the only viable choice, as I have never read or seen Lord of the Rings, aside from the Cosmonaut Picture Show video, and I've also never read or seen a full Harry Potter movie, aside from The Fantastic Beasts and the last 30 minutes of The Deathly Hallows Part 2, also Cosmonaut Picture Show. Either way, a conversation about books occurs, and I choose to respond with what I did in high school, which was telling Emily that I read a book a month, which I did actually do, specifically with the Edge Chronicle series. Unrelated to the next line of questioning, I then tell Emily that I'm into electronica, because I literally know nothing about indie music. But I have heard of the punks who are daft. Also, this. We can skip ahead now because I spend the next few minutes fumbling my way through a conversation about music I do not know. As you can hopefully tell, both these conversations are a bit similar, but they give me a decent understanding of these two girls, and they set me up on my way to make a decision on whose party I'll attend. Option 1, go to cool girl Evelyn's house party where they'll be drinking and playing beer pong. Or, option 2, go to gamer girl Emily's barbecue party where they won't be drinking and have a bonfire. Truthfully, it's a very easy choice on my part because despite having finished my college degree, I don't drink. I have had a few sips of wine, but yeah, I have zero interest in alcohol, and alcohol is kind of one of the main selling points of Evelyn's party. So the choice is simple. Let's go hang out with Emily. She did also promise me some s'mores. Something to note is that I am fully ditching Evelyn's party after she extended me an invitation, and I didn't even tell her if I was deciding I could go or not. No, she expected me to show up, and then I didn't. And that feels pretty mean, honestly. No heads up, no sorry, can't even lie. But the characters don't really dwell on that, because after I inform Matt, he groans, because some dude named Brad is going to be attending as well. Brad is apparently an annoying guy who's in love with Emily, and here's where we get into our first case of what my friend Maya would call your choices don't matter. All three options I'm presented with demonstrate a strong negative connotation towards this Brad fellow. Personally, I myself do not care about this Brad bro in the slightest, but our pro tag really does. Especially since it involves Emily. Regardless of my decision here, Matt and I brush it aside, hoping this Brad guy won't bother Emily too much, but with my pro tag being more than willing to get involved. Bringing an end to the first chapter of Emily is Away, less than 3, and when it ends, I'm allowed to see a social media timeline of the events that transpired after my choices. Going to Emily's party with Matt and Kelly, I get to see a few pictures of everyone goofing around and having fun. It's a cute detail, and it really makes this game feel like a trip down memory lane. I'm just looking over the past, few months on my Facebook timeline, which I'm sure is nostalgic. Before progressing further, I also see another message. One of Emily telling me to get ready to lose, because she's about to destroy me in Mario Kart, which does sound fun, but before I proceed, I do a bit of exploring around the menus, finding a secrets menu where you have to type a key phrase to unlock extra cool things. And here, I then listen to the ramblings of my friend Maya and enter the magical 3 letters. G O D. Not in that order. Unlocking a pettable dog, which is pretty pog. All that said, let's move on to the game's next chapter, October 18th, 2008. Like we saw in the intermission, this Mario Kart Showdown is a pretty big deal since Emily is posting about it. Naturally, I respond to it, picking the option that seems the least creepy. Matt then starts texting me, namely telling me about what his girlfriend Kelly has been up to, that being trying to get into a college for photography, which I wanted to bring up because out of the entire cast, Kelly is like the only person who is actively thinking about their future. She wants to go to a college and is making an effort towards that goal, whereas Matt, me, and Emily are just doing our very much best to not think about college or the future. It just creates a bit of a dissonance between us, that's all I want to point out. Additionally, it's also pretty funny how, at this point, both Matt and I realize we don't know a single thing about photography, rendering both of us unable to support Kelly in a way that makes her feel capable. Still, this is a detour, so let's refocus on the main topic, as Matt shows me a picture he took of me, in the act. I'm not really sure what he means by that, cause like, it's just me holding a marshmallow and sitting next to Emily. I don't really get it. Though based on the responses, it clearly flusters the pro tag. Also, I should mention a minor bug that popped up here, where I'm not allowed to click on the third option. It really sucks, because this happens a few more times in the future. But at this point in time, it didn't really hinder me. And it wasn't until my 13th hour of playing this game that I realized I could hit the numbers on the keyboard to select an option. Regardless, I end up being, not playing, dumb, as I genuinely had no idea what Matt was insinuating when he was saying I was laying down the charm and the Emily Lean thing he mentions. It didn't really register to me as like a big deal, like that just happens. I do appreciate how supportive Matt is, despite how hard he is pushing this ship. The convo then ends as he dips to let me chat with Emily without distraction. The convo is fun as Emily and I start reminiscing about the party from the summer. We're both even excited about how we're gonna hang out later. Emily even then brings up the fact that I was apparently running interference between her and Brad, which seems to have been a good idea since Emily really didn't like him, only inviting him to the party since she's a chronic people pleaser, much like myself, which allows us to bond over this mutual understanding. Then there's a chat about music that I really can't relate to, but I do tell Emily that I really just cannot vibe with her music. But she doesn't take it too badly, after all it's good to have differences. And from there, the new topic is that Emily wants to coordinate our Halloween costumes for Matt's upcoming Halloween party. She's gonna be Tinkerbell, so naturally to coordinate with her, I have to be a second Tinkerbell. Afterwards, Emily sends me a note survey to take alongside her, and reveals some deep lore about herself, like the fact that a Nickelback song made her cry. Now, I only know 2 Nickelback songs, one of which is from Batman, and the second one though, I assume is this song. I assume she was talking about this song. I go and fill out the note survey, answering honestly for all of it. Though this mouth question was certainly the hardest, as I have never had Starbucks or coffee. And the question about the F word was very difficult as I myself don't use it very often, and teenage me didn't use it at all. So I picked the answer that ended up being a funny hee ha ha ha. After completing the survey, Evelyn messages me and it's a conversation where my sins come back to haunt me, as it's very clear this is a flickering friendship. Made worse by the fact that when Evelyn asked me to name a song from the playlist she sent me, I completely biff it and name a wholly unrelated song, proving that I never did check out her playlist. In my defense, when I was playing through this chapter and most of the game, I was on break at a middle school where I don't have any internet connection, so I wasn't able to use the link that she sent me. The end result is Evelyn feels pretty bad about how we've drifted apart ever since I ditched her for Emily's party. Yet, even though we can't be friends, or, well, she doesn't want to try to be friends, Evelyn divulges some concerning information about Matt, who has apparently been hitting on her and being flirty to any female in his area. Based on the options, I'm allowed to be angry, but I'm not, and I kinda just let it wash over me, since Evelyn herself isn't treating this like a big deal or like some kind of crisis. And Matt is, well, Matt, so I don't think it's malicious. I'll just ask him about it later. Which is where the conversation peters out as I then go to speak to Emily, and we compare notes on our note surveys, seeing how similar our answers were. Most interestingly, both of us unanimously agreed that having good close friends was better than having a good relationship. I just thought it made sense, while Emily has a reason based on an event she experienced. You see, Emily used to be certified besties with Evelyn, but everything changed when Evelyn got a boyfriend, a dude named Travis, who completely ruined their friendship because of how he changed Evelyn, making her into a smoking, drinking, and lame rule-breaking gal. This eventually pushed Emily away, and she reacted in a not very nice way by giving Evelyn an ultimatum of either keeping the boyfriend or getting to keep Emily as a friend. Evelyn chose the boyfriend, which wasn't much of a long-term plan, as within a few months, Evelyn and Travis would break up, after which neither Emily nor Evelyn reached out to the other. Instead, they've only been exchanging some lyrics from a song between Facebook posts, and that's actually painfully realistic. Like, I actually remember something very similar in high school, but just with movie quotes. Kids will do anything but own up to their behavior. But the point of all this is that Emily wants my advice, and I tell her to just go and talk to Evelyn, say sorry, and then move on with your life. There's no sense in dwelling on this. All the danger and tension has passed. Confront it now and then move on. Things likely won't ever be the same, but at the very least she can stop beating herself up over this, which Emily decides to listen to, resolving to reach out to Evelyn tomorrow. And that then lets the conversation shift to a more lighthearted topic, as Emily declares she'll destroy me with her Toad-based gameplay. And at that statement, I can only imagine the horrors I will hear tomorrow, going against a Toad player.
Okay, listen here, you sassy baka! I love you!
Needless to say, it's a good reason to be excited, and Emily seems to enjoy my presence, so naturally I tell her that I like her too, which just leaves us smiling like two goofballs. And that then prompts Emily to ask me if tomorrow is something, of which I get confused and ask for further clarification. But she keeps being evasive, and I again ask, "What are you saying?" At which point, it dawns on me what she actually means. So verbally, I go, "Oh, date." Yeah, that didn't click for me at all, in the slightest. I was just clicking on whatever option would explain things further immediately. I'm also a lot oblivious, okay? This then leads to us changing our Facebook status from single to dating, which is kinda funny and pretty cute as it brings an end to chapter 2. Looking over the aftermath of my choices, it seems like the Halloween party went well. There is even a cute little picture of the double Tinkerbell whammy. However, the cock shame likely wasn't worth it. However, while the EXE relationship developed, the Matt and Kelly relationship came to an end, which is what I'll be dealing with in the next chapter as we dive into Chapter 3, Sunday, December 28th, 2008, which is around the time that the IRL me was watching El Hombre Araña for the first time. In the game though, I'm treated to a few little pictures of me hanging out with Emily, Matt, and Keller even there too. But I then get to chatting and poking Emily. Poking is a little side thing where I have to virtually poke Emily back when she pokes me. It's fun and it reminds me of the kind of stuff I did to annoy my friends and crush. So I found it cute. The topic of this conversation is date, as Emily and I shall go on a date later today, but neither of us planned anything, so it's pretty fun as we have to throw ideas around and acknowledge the blame, but then disregard it as it really doesn't matter. Yet something that isn't disregarded is the fact that I sent a birthday post to Evelyn, which I personally thought wasn't a big deal, but apparently it's noteworthy to Emily and is a crisis that needs to be managed by my protag. Just look at the options. The downplaying, it was just a gift, the immediate apology, I'm sorry, and passing the blame. Facenook told me to. It's not a thing that angers Emily, but it just brings up her conflicted feelings about Evelyn. She says that in the interim between chapters, they did talk, and we can see Emily send a post out to Evelyn asking to chat. They've seemingly settled their past and have chosen to move on with their lives, just not as friends, which grants me some thanks from Emily, who appreciates me nudging her in the right direction. The conversation then shifts in a new direction to a new topic: Matt, my best friend, and his recent breakup. Now, I'll admit, during this section of story, I wasn't at my most empathetic, mainly because I was under the wrong impression. Based on a few of the online posts and what Evelyn told me last chapter, I had reason to believe that Matt was the one who broke up with his girlfriend Kelly, meaning that I was rather dismissive when it came to acknowledging Matt's suffering, constantly telling Emily that Matt will get over it, he's fine. A statement that was quickly proven to be false, as Matt sends Emily a text and asks if she can call, which prompts a very strange message. Emily asks if I'm okay with her calling Matt, like she is asking for my permission, which I think is really weird. Made weirder by the dialogue options I'm given, where I have the option to bring up what Evelyn told me in the last chapter about Matt, but I would hope that I trust my friends, so naturally I tell her that of course she can talk to Matt. Why, it's stupid. Emily gives him a call, but it only lasts for a few seconds, as apparently Matt couldn't bring himself to talk at all and hung up after a few seconds. He's not holding up well, and Emily relays that to me and asks me to message Matt and check up on him, which I agree to do, but first Emily and I get sidetracked, talking about how great we are, and then we do a compatibility quiz, which I ace. Immediately afterwards though, Kelly, Matt's ex-girlfriend, texts me, asking me if I'm free to talk tonight. I tell her no, cause I'm gonna go on a date with Emily, but I could easily cancel if she needs someone to talk to, prompting Kelly to laugh it off, saying that she's not asking for herself, she wants me to go and talk to Matt because, well, she's worried about him since she broke up with him. Quite the reveal, yes. Prompting me to ask what exactly broke them up, with me being low-key concerned that it's due to what Evelyn told me. But it turns out it's nothing that dramatic. Kelly just thought that her and Matt are different people who want different things from the future, and so she broke up with him. I tell her that I think that's a pretty good reason. I feel like I should just support this, and what matters more is the fact that she's remorseful, and that she obviously doesn't mean Matt any ill intention. I'm then handed a link to Matt's new Facebook account, since he has abandoned the old account and made this new one. Apparently he did so last night and sent Kelly a friend request, but then deleted it, and now with the new link I can just request a friend, and my friend request is accepted, allowing me to talk to Matt, of which I start by being jokey, complimenting his new digs and being excited to meet the new Matt. But I quickly then get down to business, which eventually works as Matt opened up to me about what happened with Kelly and how she broke up with him. Told him everything directly, and now he's just stuck replaying it in his mind. I tell him that it's pointless to keep thinking it over. Kelly made up her mind and he can't control her. There's nothing he could have done. He's just gotta keep moving forward and be independent. It's the right message, I think, but it rings somewhat hollow for Matt, who is having a hard time processing everything, since Kelly was the first person he ever really loved. Then, to make matters worse, I let Matt know that Evelyn and some other girls think he's kind of a creep for how he comes across in his messages. It's best summed up by me saying that Santa absolutely hates Matt, because wow, a breakup and then everyone thinks he's a creep? But at that joke, followed then by September 12th -1 joke, it seems that Matt starts to act more like his usual self. That seemingly grounded him. It's also here where Emily starts texting me, letting me know of a change of plans. We can apparently hang out in her basement, free of supervision, which, sounds kinda fun. I'm then left to bounce back and forth between the two, with Matt starting to get introspective since high school's gonna be ending in half a year, wondering who will stay in touch, and asking if Emily and I have plans for college. I tell him we'll see when we get there. No sense in thinking that far ahead. Meanwhile, Emily takes that compatibility quiz I aced earlier, which starts with a weird conversation about my results. Apparently the compatibility test says I'm very compatible with Kelly and Evelyn. Emily still won out in the end, but it's a rather close race. I choose not to dwell on it and don't blow it out of proportion. Back with Matt, he's got a sick idea. We should hang out tonight, play some video games and chill, which I think is a great idea. So I tell him I'll go check in on Emily since we have plans, and I assure him that he isn't a bother. I want to hang out with him, and that's exactly what I do. Explaining everything to Emily, say, I'm sorry, but like, my bro needs me. Thankfully, Emily agrees and tells me to go hang out with Matt. After all, we both agree that having friends is more important than having a relationship. So with Emily's blessing, I text Matt the good news and ask him to respectfully bring the Doritos and Mountain Dew. And as a final note, Emily completes her compatibility quiz, which she aces, as I'm at the top of the list, followed by Evelyn, Kelly, and some guy named Jeff, allowing me to end Chapter 3. The rundown between chapters is a little more scarce this time, just pictures of me and Matt hanging out, plus Emily's declaration of surrender for her loss during the Great Poke War that raged throughout the last chapter. And I can see that the hook for the next chapter is prom. So let's dive into Chapter 4, Monday, March 16th, 2009. And this chapter starts off pretty slow. The initial section is just about Emily saying how great things are between us, and how we had a great time at a concert last night. Snow Patrol or something. I also learn about some new friends that Emily's made, named a girl named Anna and a guy named Jeff from her English class. We can actually see a few little pictures of them, so that's kind of neat. Also, apparently, Emily's new friend Anna has been hitting it off with Matt. I can actually find pictures of the two together. Additionally, checking in on Evelyn and Kelly, I can see that those two have become very close. Back with Emily though, the conversation then shifts into another music discussion that I fumble through with my vague recollections of Daft Punk, which in turn becomes a discussion on prom. To go or not to go? That is the question. I say we go because, well, it's a unique experience. Might as well go. So it's decided that we'll go to prom, and the conversation then comes to an end as Emily goes to do her homework, at which point I get a text from Matt. And it sure as hell ain't sketchy when he asks me to promise not to get angry if he ends up being off base. This is about Jeff. Matt wants to know if I've heard of him, which I have. He's Emily's friend in her new English class alongside Anna. And Matt wants me to turn my attention to a few posts he's been making on Emily's page, where apparently he's been flirting with her. However, I can't see the posts Jeff's been making because we aren't friends. So naturally, I ask Matt to share some screenshots, but he has a better idea, sending me the password to his account so that I can use that to check out Jeff's posts. That is one way to do it. I'm glad he trusts me with his password. Hopefully he changes it after we're done. And with that, I sign out and sign back in as Matt. Win. Ed. At. Med. It's quite med, yeah. Here I begin to look through Jeff's profile because Matt has friended him. So I might as well learn about the threats, I guess. Let's just investigate Matt's warning and see if it holds water. That was my thinking. I don't really find much. The only thing of note I see is that Jeff took the compatibility quiz and scored pretty high with Emily. But that seems to be the only thing that's kinda sus. Everything else looks normal. I don't really see the major flirting that Matt was talking about. Matt tries to convince me of the opposite. I should mention that Matt's using his old account to talk to his new account, and I like that. I like how that's incorporated. That's pretty cool. But yeah, Matt's trying to convince me of the opposite, bringing up how Emily made him a music playlist, which is supposed to be our thing. But I really don't think that's a big deal. Also, I haven't checked out any of the playlists that Emily has made, so at least someone is. He then brings up how Emily immediately messaged him after I confirmed our prom plans, calling it creepy, but I just reply that Matt's been doing the same, asking for confirmation on if I'll go to prom or ditch it. So like, friends being friends, you know? Keep them in the loop. He then asks if I've noticed anything different, but I really haven't. Maybe she's been more excitable recently, but Matt says that Kelly was just like that before they broke up. But again, I really don't think it's a big deal, and if it is something, I'm sure we can figure it out later. Matt is mostly shocked by my responses, saying I'm more trusting than he ever could be, and then he brings up a new point, realizing that Jeff is online, and I could talk to him. But I shoot the idea down because, like, why? Why would I do that? Like, seriously, why should I give a single about Jeff? He is irrelevant to my life, and from the looks of it, is just Emily's friend. And I trust Emily, because why would she do that? And for the same reason, I also elect to not say anything to Emily about this, because it's really not my job to monitor every facet of her existence, nor is it my place to control Emily's friends. So with that, I log out of Matt's account, though I do briefly consider looking through Matt's texts and messages, but I decide, no, that's wrong, and log out. Returning to my Edwin account, where Emily is waiting with a text asking me what I've been up to, and it's here where I'm struck by a bug that doesn't allow me to click on the bottom option to say nothing, and instead forces me to say that I heard a rumor about Jeff. I then try to steer damage control and be as passive and light as possible when it comes to probing her about Jeff, which is really freaking difficult since the protag wants to be as accusatory and controlling as possible. Especially when Emily says, full disclosure, Jeff's going through some personal shit right now. I'm just trying to help. Of which my responses range from terrible to what the hell, man. Option 1. I don't like it. Ergo, my opinion matters more than your autonomy. How dare you have a life outside of me? Option 2. Are you sure you can? Ergo, let's be manipulative. Why are you helping him? There's no way you can do anything to help him. Stop. Because I said so. You should doubt yourself now. Option 3. Can't someone else? Ergo, I'm just an asshole who doesn't want you to associate with another male in any capacity. It was so bad. Eventually, I chose to reply with can't someone else? Because that one felt the least mean, which Emily, by the grace of God, takes well, saying that she's trying to convince Jeff to go to therapy and promises that's all. Then thankfully I'm allowed to drop the topic altogether. But wow, that jealousy and insecurity is absolutely blinding. The protag only wanted to tear his relationship down at any cost because Emily dare spoke to another man. I also want to mention that this jealousy business was seeded at the very start of the chapter, due to the inclusion of Baby, Emily's iPod that she named as such. Personally, I think it's kind of creepy how the protag can just fixate on him not being the baby in Emily's life. Like, I just thought that was creepy and unsettling and really uncomfortable. Though the most bizarre thing, however, is that after the whole affair, after I started being controlling and unreasonable, and then just dropped the issue, Emily proceeds to thank me for being understanding. She thanks me for not being a controlling bastard. Like, be mad at me. I was so rude. But then she calls me a nice person when no. You should be mad at me. Please, do not reward this awful behavior, please. We then say we love each other and then dip. Well, Emily dips. I still have to talk to Matt for one more final check-in. He asks if Emily and Jeff are done being friends, and I tell him they're just friends. He then asks if I'm really okay with that, and I tell him that in the end, a choice like that isn't up to me, but I trust Emily. For which Matt once again calls me more trusting than he ever could be, ending the chapter, right as Jeff sends me a friend request. This one is definitely a shorter chapter, likely because I refused to participate in the majority of the chapter by not speaking to Jeff and by not accusing and clashing with Emily. In the intervening period, it seems as though prom was a blast. Jeff was even there, alongside me, Matt, Emily, and Anna. And that's kind of it, so without further ado, let's head into the final chapter. Chapter 5, Tuesday, June 2nd, 2009. School is finally over. Everyone had their graduation a few days ago. Looking through Facenook provides a lot of images and gives you the feeling of a fleeting past. The big events are over and now there's just nothing in the distance. Stories are also wrapping up. Evelyn's now besties with Kelly, and she's dating a dude named Steve, while Matt's been spending a lot of time with this Anna girl. Emily has been furthering her bond with Jeff, and I've been content to hang out with Matt and Emily. The chapter truly begins with Matt messaging me, something about his birthday's coming up, and I'm gonna be helping his not girlfriend Anna buy him a gift. But what matters more is that Matt wants me to set up one more event, a big beach day with everyone. And I'm on board, so I go tell Emily, and she's slightly off. It's weird. But I'm immediately concerned when she says nothing ever happens in this town, because that just sounds a little out of character for Emily. Side notes, but I've never really understood this phrase, because what exactly is the something they want to happen to the town? Like a natural disaster, some kind of big concert, giant commercial shopping areas, drama? Like, I don't really get the phrase. Additionally, Emily seems adverse to hanging out with me, saying that her parents want her to stay in tonight, which I respect, and then I bring up Matt's beach day idea, and Emily doesn't seem too thrilled, but agrees to join nonetheless. She then asks about the status of Matt and Anna, because they are going on dates and sleeping with each other, but have elected not to label themselves as a couple. Their reasoning being that college is coming so soon, so who knows how long they'll last. Emily reasons that a relationship without a label is a lot less scary because there's no sense of overbearing dread. You don't really feel the approaching end. And then she brings that conversation to us, asking if we'll stay together through college, of which I'm less than accommodating as I reply with a dismissive, "We'll see when we get there." I tell her that I tried to live in the moment, but Emily replies that she can't do that with all this uncertainty in the air. So I ask her, what does she want to do then? To which Emily doesn't know, asking what kind of couple are we? And I ask, what does she mean by that? But she answers with a question. Are we soulmates or something common? Again, I respond, I don't know. Sounds too existential to think about, much to Emily's confusion. So I clarify, you can't not do something because it ends. And then again, she asks if we're soulmates, which is a question I can't really answer with certainty. So I say, the closest I've ever known. But that's not what Emily wants to hear. In fact, she wants to talk in person, which, yeah, I'll do. But then Emily shoots down the idea, saying that it's too late for that and continues, explaining that she's feeling unsatisfied in the relationship, that recently we felt more like friends rather than romantic partners. I ask her to clarify and be clearer, but again, Emily can't find the words, saying that it's not as much as it used to be. Whatever that means. Apparently it's fireworks and butterflies. Emily doesn't want the relationship to feel stationary, which is interesting. It's just not exciting or developing enough. Something to know, we've been together less than a year. I struggle to understand this, and even when I try to see things from Emily's point of view, I'm just not meeting the mark. Even my attempts to stay positive by saying we can get through this, we can figure this out, are met with rejection. According to Emily, there's no root to this. It's just her, which is, now, Emily, logically speaking here, that's an incorrect phrase, as it implies I just need to understand you and, okay, obviously Emily is actually correct, sorta, because this is an issue without a clear cause, mainly propelled by the fact that both characters, Emily and the protag, are teenagers at a very uncertain point in their lives. From there, Emily begins to praise the relationship that Matt and Anna have, where they do couple stuff without calling themselves a couple, because it allows them to live without expectations. And for like the fourth time, I ask Emily, what do you mean by that? And her response isn't very satisfactory, putting the question onto me and how I feel, which truthfully, I feel less and less sure about the relationship by the second, prompting Emily to request that we take a break. Just put the relationship on hold, clear our heads, and figure things out. A request that doesn't sit right with me because I don't feel like I need to clear my head, because truthfully, I just don't get it. Though even when given the option to lash out, I refuse and choose to relent for the sake of Emily, telling her, fine, maybe we can take a break. But as she keeps talking, I eventually decide that this just feels like a normal breakup, and it's not right if I go along with this despite not agreeing. So for the umpteenth time, I tell Emily, no, I really don't understand, so I would rather, honestly, just break up. let's jump over the line instead of teetering on it for ages. And despite making Emily cry, I go through with it. The conversation then ends with Emily telling me, "Bye, Edwin," for the first time. As throughout the whole game, Emily has refused to ever say bye, always opting for a see you later. But now, this is bye forever. Maybe we can still be friends, maybe not. But speaking of friends, Matt messages me after seeing Emily change her status, and very kindly offers to curse Emily out and send her rude messages. But I tell him not to. He then makes me laugh, and from there starts asking me what happened, which I do my best to define, and also seems to conclude that this was totally a communication issue. Matt also doesn't really understand what Emily's angle was with the whole break idea, and then Matt asks if I think Jeff had something to do with this, but I tell him, no, I don't think there's anything there, and I still fully believe her. Why would she lie? Plus, most importantly, who gives a shit about Jeff? Why should I care about some guy named Jeff? It is painful. It is so painful how much the protag and Matt want to focus on this dude. It pisses me off. Oh my god, he doesn't matter. Regardless, Matt still pushes it, saying that Emily didn't want to believe that Jeff was pulling her way and that the signs were clear. Their pictures, the hangouts, the posts, all of it. But I remain unconvinced. I say it's not conclusive enough. To that, Matt responds by saying, I must be the strongest person he knows. But honestly, that makes me feel really sad, because having trust in another person you're supposed to love is meant to be strength. It's meant to be really strong and powerful. I'd assume that's the bare minimum, honestly. It shouldn't be impressive. From there, Matt comforts me and says this might have been the best outcome. I cut myself out and more or less left the ball in Emily's court. I chose to trust her, and everything that follows is the fault of Emily, not mine. So that it has to mean something. Afterwards, Matt decides to hang out with me, and we spend the night playing video games and eating junk food, which is pretty peak. Just like when I ditched Emily to hang out with Matt, who just now did the same thing by ditching Anna to hang out with me. The breakup stings, but Matt is a certified real one. Plus, Evelyn then messages me and invites me to a party, which I accept. I might as well try to find joy somewhere else. Bringing Emily is away, greater than 3, to a close as the credits roll, giving us lots to reflect on. This video is about the nature of trust and how it's displayed in the game, and based on the ending you can see that there's definitely a lot more going on with Emily than she cared to admit. Lots of complex feelings that are never addressed and allowed to boil and stew over. A sentiment that's shared with Matt, Emily, and the protag. The mistrust is seen early in the second chapter through the anecdotes of Evelyn's relationship with Emily that deteriorated because Emily refused to communicate and confront the issue of Travis, which is then repeated as Emily isn't able to communicate her dissatisfaction soon enough. She wasn't able to trust that I would handle her dissatisfaction. Remember, in that final chapter, despite feeling wholly unsatisfied, she still initially first agreed to go with me to Matt's beach bash, where with Evelyn, she wasn't able to confront her until after the friendship had deteriorated and she had no choice. With me, when Emily brought it up, it was, comparatively speaking, decently early, and relative to Emily, it's a sign of growth, but at the same time, it also shows her lack of maturity. During the latter half of the game, Emily has a desire to be mature, but refuses to commit and have a conversation like an adult. An example of this can be seen around prom, where from my point of view, it seemed like Emily wanted to skip prom, but I was all about going, and instead of trying to raise more points, she just went along with it. She rejected communication and conceded. And Emily's behavior is inverted by me in the ending. I kept asking her to explain more, but was shot down again and again. Whether Emily is refusing to have this conversation because she's scared, or just doesn't understand how to put the feelings into words, that's what ultimately ends the relationship. It's an ending that I honestly like, because it's built on the fear of the unknown. Emily and the protag seldom ever discuss their future, and the future was Emily's greatest fear. It's this fear of the unknown that created an anxiety in Emily that ended the relationship. Yet in the end, I myself I did not concede. No, I made my intentions clear and decided to break it all down. Which may sound sad, and yes, I agree the ending of this game is sad, but likely not for the reason you think. It's not sad because Emily wants a break or because I broke up with her or the fact that this was doomed. No, it's sad because of what Matt says. He called the protag the strongest person he knows because of the trust he placed in Emily, and that's so depressing. Showing your partner a level of trust is apparently a great accomplishment, but as I said earlier, that should be the minimum. We shouldn't aspire to the lowest common denominator. No, we should aspire to heights unknown and unreached, to incredible displays of passion and faith toward one another. Am I crazy? Or, more likely, is that phrase just the character Matt trying to make the protag Edwin feel better rather than being an oversimplification and generalized message at the end that I'm choosing to interpret as the game's overall meaning while disregarding all the other content in the game? You know, I'm not really sure. But that's a lie. I am. I don't think the game is trying to say that. Instead, the game is trying to say something about trust and how the feelings of insecurity and inadequacy can strangle, can smother that trust and bury it, ruining relationships for nothing. A moment that first clued me into this theme and the sad implications of it are during the Matt breakup arc, where there's that instance of Matt calling Emily because he's so torn up, and instead of immediately picking up the phone, Emily first asks for my permission to talk to Matt, despite the fact that we're all close friends. Emily is asking for my permission to speak to another man, because that's apparently a big deal. It demonstrates the fragile nature of our relationship and how little faith we actually had in each other from the start. Emily thought the relationship was so fragile that her talking to another man would piss me off. And the thing is, she's right. Her being around Jeff sends the protag over the edge. Because my god, he can be a major controlling a-hole during the Jeff arc. And I can actually show you that. Because by rewinding time when it comes to learning about Jeff, instead of being myself and dropping the matter, I can pursue the issue and use as many scummy tactics as I want, making the protag come across as very manipulative, especially with this condescending false kindness. Like, see, was that so hard when you tell Emily she did the right thing by blocking all communication with Jeff? The way the protag just pats himself on the back for making Emily cut all communication with Jeff is disgusting, and some pretty top-notch writing from the game's creator, because the main motivating factor of this is the fact that the protag sees Emily as more of an extension of himself rather than as her own individual person, which is seen further in the next chapter, where events will transpire differently. For starters, due to me forcing Emily to cut Jeff out of her life, she has fully rekindled her connection with Evelyn, making them bona fide besties once again, while she and I continue to date. So let's jump into Chapter 5, Tuesday, June 2nd, 2009, Redux. And for the most part, it plays out the same, just replace Emily and Jeff with Emily and Evelyn. Me and Matt chat about his relationship with Anna, and then Evelyn posts a message of support for Emily. I wonder why she would do— oh, hi Emily. Nice, repeating dialogue. Sure, it's okay if you want to stay home. Don't feel too enthused about going to beach day? That's okay. What? What do you mean that Evelyn hates me? And you were talking about me? And you have something important you want to say? Sure, go ahead. And you specify that I need to make sure I look at things from your perspective. Okay, cool. I can do that. So your question is, how would I feel if you, Emily, told me to stop being friends with Matt? Not great. Probably pretty pissed at how unfair that is. Which is what Emily was hoping for, as she points out how that's a double standard. since when I told her to stop being friends with Jeff, she agreed and did so immediately. My hesitance shows an imbalance in our relationship. The protag tries to argue that, no, that was different, because Jeff totally liked her, and he could tell. I could tell, because of all the posts and all that, prompting Emily to ask if going forward, will all of her friends need my approval? The protag says it was a special case, but even so, Emily rightfully states that that's just so damn toxic, giving me several possible responses that really demonstrate the protag's more wicked side, his desire for control, and the insecurity that guides it. Option 1. Not from my perspective, that means I wasn't listening to Emily in the first place when she requested that I look at it from her perspective. Option 2. Calling it not toxic, but realistic, which is peak toxicity, demonstrating a desire to change and control the narrative. Option 3, saying it's unfair but it was for us, is absolutely manipulative, because it's me trying to guilt Emily into thinking that she's in the wrong for this. Naturally, these responses don't go very well as Emily calls them out for what they are, saying that even if Jeff did have feelings for her, why would that have mattered? It's not like he was the first friend that's ever liked her before. More than anything, it's proof that I never trusted her. And when I say stuff like, no, you got it all wrong, Emily, I trust you, not Jeff, it's, no, that statement is false. Because I am talking to Emily, not Jeff. I did not wish for Emily to associate with Jeff, because I believe that upon meeting another human male, she will realize that I am a piece of absolute garbage and therefore decide to leave me. Putting this on Jeff is the wrong way to word it, because by saying I don't trust him, I'm saying I don't trust Emily around other men, which then prompts Emily to ask if I think she's a slut. Obviously the protag says, no, of course not. But as I just went over, he's under the assumption that Emily will hop to any other guy if given the chance, which is just so disrespectful towards Emily. The back and forth continues with Emily spitting nothing but truth until the protag tells her what happened with Jeff, that was normal. In a relationship, you just have less time for friends. It was nothing out of the ordinary. And that then cements the protag in this route as a person with a desire for control and a desire to restrict and isolate their partner. With that, the spell is broken, this relationship is in shambles. From here, I select a bunch of false promises, saying, I'll get better, and Emily even promises that we can try again, but it's clear that she's not into it. Most apparent when at the end of the conversation, Emily hits me with the bye, which hurts. After all, Emily is Miss Never Say Bye. So with that, it's clear that I'm being entirely cut off from her, leaving me to go seek solace in Matt. Matt tries to cheer me up, saying that I was in the right with everything that happened with Jeff, but eventually he comes around and also understands that making Emily stop being friends with him was wrong. I like the conversation with Matt because it further demonstrates him as a real one who supports his friend, even if they are in the wrong. Bringing the game to an end, where after the credits roll, in the aftermath, I can see that my awfulness brought Emily and Evelyn closer together, so at the very least that's a good ending for them. In short, this ending demonstrates the worst that a person can be over such a trivial and small matter. It just drags them, the protag, down to a low they didn't know they were capable of. Being capable of seeing Emily as nothing more than an extension of themselves, because they can't see her as an independent person. But that ends up ringing somewhat hollow when I can jump into another timeline. And yes, I mean it, another timeline where things can transpire differently. So differently that in this new world, Edwin does not exist. Instead, replaced by Sky. Yeah, I decided to go female protag for this route, and it's here where I realized that the game doesn't use pronouns for the protag. No he or she. I'm surprised I didn't pick up on that the first time around. Anyway, at the start of the original timeline, I decided to go to Emily's party instead of Evelyn's party, and that sent me down the prior path. But what if I did the reverse? Go to Evelyn's party and pursue a relationship with her, meaning we get basically the exact same story, but replace Emily's name with Evelyn, and replace electronica and indie music with rap and hip-hop music. It's literally the same script, same dialogue and everything, which is really underwhelming because it means that Emily and Evelyn are the same person. They talk the same, both have an iPod named Baby. Both at one point were angsty younger teens. It's just so disappointing. Plus, since during my initial run with Emily, I would occasionally get glimpses of Evelyn's story, like her struggles, problems with parents, the friendship she formed with Kelly. It made her seem cool, and like she was part of a wholly different world. But now, in this timeline, all the stuff I saw happen to Evelyn just happened to Emily. These two are interchangeable. It diminishes the fact that these two characters are supposed to be their own independent people, when now, categorically, that's untrue. Both of them are carbon copies. There's nothing unique about them. But I can discuss that later. So let's first delve through the Evelyn routes, where I give in to peer pressure and decide to drink the alcohol. I go to Evelyn's party and have a good time, leading to me becoming Evelyn's friend and confidant, who she then speaks to about becoming friends of Emily again. And this here is one of the only differences in the entire script, where Evelyn tells me the whole story about her and Travis. Evelyn takes full responsibility in letting Travis change her, because he was an older guy and she was desperate to be mature for him and was willing to please him in any way she could. And that part was in her agreeing to fully isolate herself, ceasing any and all contact with Emily, because Travis found her annoying. And the thing is, once Travis asked Evelyn to cut off Emily, Evelyn just did that immediately. No hesitation, she just did it. And to her, it just felt normal. Travis made that toxic behavior seem normal, and Evelyn felt like she was in the wrong for complaining and grew complicit with the treatment. It's an action that truthfully falls onto Evelyn. She is to blame because she didn't second guess it, cutting off her best friend. And from there, she struggled to reconcile with Emily. I can understand why Emily was quite bummed and refused to reach out in the prior timeline, because honestly, it should be Evelyn who reaches out, because she's the one who cut her off. And so that's what I urge Evelyn to do. Reach out to Emily. From there, everything transpires about the same. I once again decide to come for Matt when Kelly breaks up with him because I see no reason to be mean to him to get a slightly different ending where he abandons me. And once again, I must reiterate, it is the exact same as the Emily route. We even have a whole conversation about Baby the iPod and get no differences. But then there's also the fact that instead of going to see Snow Patrol, Evelyn and I go to see the guy who sang about how no one man should have all that power. And now instead of the Jeff arc, we got the Steve arc. And it's exactly the same. Which then prompts Matt and the protag to dive headfirst into insecurity and jealousy, just like the first Emily routes. And this time I once again ignore and decide to put my trust in Evelyn, resulting in a different chapter. Here in Neo Chapter 5, I see that Evelyn is now distancing herself from Steve, not being able to make plans with him because she's busy. Seems kinda familiar to how Emily started ghosting me. Then I talk to Matt and his not dating thing with Anna in a one-to-one identical conversation. After which Evelyn appears, and in a contrast to Emily during the first run, she's actually invested in the conversation and is excited, even appearing sad when she mentions that her parents want her to stay in for the night, instead of being very disinterested in the notion of spending time with me. Plus, the difference is night and day when I bring up Matt's summer beach bash, where Evelyn is excited to go and is already thinking of what we can do. Then, when the discussion shifts towards what will be in the future, Evelyn is of course scared but is undaunted, wanting to step into the future alongside me, because both of us are willing to try and make it work. Even if it doesn't, even if it's ill-fated, we promise to still be friends if things go wrong, ending in us affirming our love, followed then by a brief intermission as Evelyn is annoyed by the presence of a stupid kid.
I am Steve.
Turns out he's been annoying her as of late, because in the wall post we can see that he's been badgering Evelyn's wall to ask if she can hang out later in the week yet. Basically, he's not giving up after she declined his invitations. According to Evelyn, she says that after she helped Steve pull himself together, she thought that he would get better, implying that she's always seen him as a bit clingy, but in reality it resulted in him being worse, and proving that he isn't very good at being independent. So Evelyn says that her current strat is to slowly ignore him until he goes away, which is a little mean, but it's her life, and I'm not Steve. I don't even know the guy. Afterwards, I'm taken down a trip through memory lane as I recount my favorite moments across the past year, mine being the Halloween party where, in this universe, it was double corpse brides, instead of double Tinkerbells. Whereas Evelyn's favorite moment has apparently been talking on Facenook, which, if I was a real-life guy who had been planning dates and stuff, wow, that would have really hurt my feelings. But the game is all about messaging, so it's cute that that's Evelyn's favorite part because that's the only part I experience. After which, Evelyn decides to sneak out of her house to hang out with me, and the game comes to a close as Evelyn and I continue our relationship, and I get two neat little pictures after the credits of Sky hanging out with Matt and Evelyn, all three of them just goofing around. It's a nice and happy ending, but what if I were just the worst? As an added bonus, before I conclude my whole analysis, allow me to explain what happens if I'm the worst with no remorse. Rewinding back to chapter 4, after learning of the existence of Steve, I confront Evelyn immediately, accusing her of cheating, asking what Jeff is to her, accusing her of downplaying at every opportunity, and then being as rude and dismissive of her feelings and the situation at every possible opportunity, such as by telling her that I don't give a shit about Steve's bad situation that she's been helping him with. She can always get new friends, and refusing to ever see things from her side, while making everything about me. Hell, even when Evelyn says she's about to cry, I have Sky retort with, "Now you know how I felt." It's really cruel. But finally, after all of this verbal abuse, Evelyn realizes that this is wrong and cruel, especially since I won't budge on Steve and want her to stop talking to him, just like what Evelyn's boyfriend, Travis, made her do. Realizing this, Evelyn refuses to cut out a friend for a piece of shit like me. So she breaks up with me because I, Edwin Sky, am no different than Travis. Hell, even the letters are the same. So the relationship is over, as I refuse to give Evelyn any of my trust. And then for the funny, I go back to Matt and tell him that I have no idea why Evelyn dumped me. Like, Matt, bro, what did I do wrong? Though this chapter does end with me and Matt hanging out, which some would say is a pretty good ending all things considered. In the aftermath after chapter 4, I see that Matt and I went to a party that was also attended by Anna. Meanwhile, Evelyn, Steve, Kelly, and Emily went to prom proper. No sense on dwelling on that. So let's jump into chapter 5 for the final time, where here it's strangely familiar to the Emily route, the version of the route where I flipped out about Jeff that resulted in Emily and Evelyn reconnecting, but also with Evelyn distancing herself from Steve. Once again, I have an identical chat with Matt about his relationship with Anna, but this time there's a twist, as Matt mentions that he's been chatting with Evelyn, and me and her should, like, talk. Which I agree, and within seconds, I'm talking to Evelyn in a conversation that above all else feels awkward. And it begins with me asking the cringe. What was Steve to her? And once again, as we know, it's confirmed that yes, he was nothing. Just a friend, and currently, they aren't even close. She thinks he's annoying, which is so funny to learn about in this context, because it proves that this breakup, and the breakup with Emily when I was pissed at her, was over nothing. God, that's so funny. I love me a generational fumble. From there, Evelyn illustrates why I was in the wrong, why it was bad for me to be controlling, and yeah, this is basically a lot of the same points from when Emily called me out for my crap. Just replace Jeff with Steve. However, I do think this comes across a lot harder hitting with Evelyn, mainly because of her experience with Travis, and the fact that she's the one who broke up with me. Unlike with Travis, where she cut out the friend immediately, with me, she demonstrated growth and immediately slapped me across the face telling me no. Good for her. But through Evelyn's words, I realized my misdeeds and apologize, with the two of us deciding to start anew, but as friends. Though there is a bit of an odd statement here as Evelyn tries to say that it was nobody's fault, but no, she's wrong. The breakup was entirely my fault. Like, she can genuinely take zero blame. I mean, sure, she said breakup, but I was completely unreasonable and so ignorant. But let's just assume Evelyn is being nice. From there, Evelyn bids me deuces, which is a nice sign because if she said bye, that would mean she didn't want to talk to me anymore. From there, I see a notification appear. Turns out Emily's hosting a party, and she's inviting Matt and Evelyn, not me. I assume that in her reconciliation with Evelyn, she heard about what I did and is rightfully keeping me away, allowing me to then end the chapter, and after the credits, I can see photos of Matt, Anna, Evelyn, and Emily having a good time without me. Maybe this is the best outcome. Let's go over some of my thoughts on the game. Overall, the Jeff/Steve issue is quite interesting because it can be so forced and so painful, but also because it's such a sudden and immediate reaction, like the pro tag, bro. Bro is acting so rashly and lashing out without taking a day to think this through. He is going through it. But aside from being stupid, it also represents his childhood immaturity and difficulty in thinking about others from himself. All of the options presented during that arc are very me-centered and clue the player in on the protag's temperament and demonstrate the controlling side, which also makes sense when you notice that throughout the game, characters look to the protag for advice and decision making. The protag decides what party to go to. The protag decides if Emily and Evelyn should reconcile. Matt frequently asks you for your opinion and what they should do. And Emily and Evelyn in the relationship do kind of reinforce this. Once again, I'll mention that scene where Emily/Evelyn asks for permission to call Matt. It's a weird moment, but also shows that that kind of thing is normal. It shows us. It might honestly be where Evelyn was coming from when she said that both of us were at fault, her for enabling. But personally, I don't think it's like, oh, you were always controlling. No. The small things added up and it created this sense of control. Speaking of Jeff and Steve, I love how little they matter because they are so inconsequential. It's really funny how much Matt and the protag were tweaking about them. Seriously, when you just take a look at their profiles, there's really nothing strange about it, since it's just text and simple friend stuff like, hey, let's hang out. Hey, do you have my new music playlist? Like, if these talks were more personal, or if they were constantly taking photos, or like constantly meeting in person, sure, that would stir up feelings. But in the game, it's just this minor, teeny tiny seed of distrust that you can choose to bloom into something truly horrific and explosive. It harkens to simple, young pig-headedness that is fueled by misguided passion and insecurity and a lack of trust in their partner. I've used the word insecurity a lot, but that's really what this is. If you think that someone will just leave you for the smallest, slightest thing, then yeah, that's hella insecure and fragile. It's a lack of trust in themselves. And lastly, I want to comment on Emily and Evelyn's iconic never say goodbye thing, where when they have decided to cut someone off, they say goodbye, but while talking with people, they will always opt for other forms of goodbye, like deuces, see ya, and so on. And they also had the people in their lives do this, because the word goodbye implies an end, which is also, to them, a display of trust, or lack thereof. The never say goodbye is a demonstration of Emily and Evelyn's own insecurity. The idea that people will just leave them, so they don't even want to leave the smallest crack. They don't trust that person to return because of their own fears for the future. By not using bye, it's a confirmation of a continued relationship and connection. The fear of the future is something that's shared with them. At the very least, in the Emily route at the very start, she was scared of the unknown and then couldn't continue. But in the Evelyn route, she wasn't and pressed forward. And it's unrelated, but I personally find the statements of byes really funny because I regularly say to my friends, bye forever, when I leave for the slightest of things. If I'm going to the bathroom, that's a bye forever moment. And now, lastly, for real, let's discuss the endings. The initial ending I got with Emily and the super happy Evelyn ending, because they're really weird. Overall, I find the initial ending where Emily wanted to break up or take a break because things didn't feel right, I found it to be very excellent and rather fitting for the game. Sometimes things don't work out because people can't understand themselves. It shouldn't be villainized. It's just a part of life. It's not even the end of the world. As we saw in that ending, I still had Matt as a friend. Meanwhile, the happy Evelyn ending is sweet and triumphant, and I'd love everything about it if it didn't feel hollow, because it left me so unsatisfied. And this is to do with the characterization of Emily and Evelyn as the love interest. I cannot stress enough how odd it feels to know that for both endings, I did the exact same thing both times to get two radically different endings with two different people who weren't even different people and were just the same person. It feels as though it really wasn't worth it, because what did I achieve? I didn't learn anything. I didn't grow from this. I didn't change anything about what I did. And I was so excited for the Evelyn route because I thought I'd see the story from a new perspective, but there's just so little added contact. Perhaps it's trying to say that relationships can at times just be a matter of luck. Sometimes they work and sometimes they don't, all because of factors that are beneath the surface. Sometimes you can quote-unquote do the right thing and still not get things in your favor, but it's not the end of the world. I don't know, that's the best I can come up with to rationalize it. However, the bad endings are also very interesting, because through the options selected, it demonstrates the protag as a person incapable of seeing Emily and Evelyn as nothing more than an extension of themselves, an object that listens to them and protects their fragile ego, incapable of seeing both girls. It's a truth that the player can either acknowledge or reject, but this woman of agency thing is once again hollow because Emily and Evelyn are carbon copies of each other. More than anything, it just kind of boils Emily and Evelyn down to a title. Like, date the cool girl who drinks and sneaks out and is a rebel. Or date the kinda dorky and quirky gamer girl who plays the Mario. Like, that's really what they're boiled down to, and even then, it ain't much. Play games with Emily, watch a movie with Evelyn. And that just makes the whole doomed relationship in the first run with Emily kind of annoying, because by the logic of them being the same, the relationship wasn't doomed, like, at all. So is it really a tragedy or is it forced writing? A relationship can be doomed, but just based on the personality traits of the character and their experiences, Emily and Evelyn are the same, the events are the same, so there were very little reasons for the relationship to actually end when there's a correct way it could have gone. Truthfully, I wish the game just committed to the doomed relationship with no second timeline where everything goes right, because then I can properly characterize Emily as in the route where even though I trusted Emily, it still ended. The reasoning was because Emily herself wasn't ready for a big relationship, and the anxiety overtook her. I think that was neat, and while frustrating, it was a very grounded factor, cause like, this girl just graduated high school, and college is coming up, and that's very scary. Nothing feels certain, and the unknown is fast approaching. So with the relationship being another unknown, it made sense to hack it off. All in all, this is a game about trust. Trust in friends, and trust in relationships. Trust in human beings and the willingness to just stay in the dark while others sort things out. As it's impossible to control everything, and when you try to control people, they don't tend to like it. It's a game about curbing impulses and being mature, but giving plenty of opportunities for immaturity to run through the door, slip and smash their skull into whatever or whoever happens to be in the room. At the very least though, Matt is a solid real one. And a friend like that, well, I think it's worth a whole lot. I like Matt. And despite what I've been saying, I do like this game. Does it have flaws? Yes. Did I enjoy it? Absolutely. I had a great time playing this. Until the slog through the Evelyn route, but then the endings came and that gave me more to think about. Still, I wouldn't be making this video if I enjoyed it. And while I would recommend you play the game, I must also admit that I've kinda gone over everything. I don't know what you're gonna find if you play it yourself. I really don't. But hey, with that final thought, I have been a Zamen, and this video took far too long. Oh my god, I thought this would be a short video, like 20-30 minutes max. You can hear me in the prior Persona video saying, oh yeah, Emily's gonna show up next week. It sucks that this game was a lot better than I expected, but yeah, Christ, this killed weekly videos. I'm so sorry. Thank you very much for watching this video, and consider sticking around if you don't hate my voice. My sole goal here is to improve my writing, editing, and speaking as I go on. Goodbye.